everyone. Hi. We're here with Richard Seal, Master Distiller from Foursquare in Barbados. Also, please ask any questions as you go along and we'll see how many we can answer at the end. So just put forward your questions as we go. So, hi Richard.
Hi.
Good to have you here. So just to start with, one of the things, just to start to find out really how you started your career. I know your great-grandfather founded the company. Did that mean you always knew you were going to work in the rum industry?
No, I always knew I was going to work in the business.
Yeah.
But, and certainly, British viewers can relate to this. Sometimes it's a little more of a novelty over in America, but of course, just like Scotch whiskey, there's a separation between sort of blenders and distillers, and of course, blenders would buy in and do their blends. And if you go back far enough, you'll see many of the famous whiskey blenders. They were merchant traders. They didn't trade only whiskey, and of course, this is much more the case in little Barbados. You certainly couldn't survive on trading one product. So all of the historic merchant blenders in Barbados traded many different provisions. And so, yes, I was always going to join the business, but it didn't necessarily mean I would have a particular interest in rum. So, for example, my father, very much the salesman, obviously very successful in developing the sale of rum brands, wasn't really on the technical side at all. So it could have been very easily, I could have done the same thing, yes.
Yeah. So you didn't know necessarily whether you were going to work with the liquid or in another capacity?
No, what happened was that when I sort of joined officially in '93, but I sort of worked every Christmas and summer holiday, every time I can remember. But I joined in '93, and what happened was that was very momentous because that was when my father acquired the Martin Dorley brand.
Yeah.
And Martin Dorley brand was a very, very historic and very prestigious brand. I mean, started in 1920, but very, very successful and kind of the really much revered brand and the first bottled brand actually exported. And they had merged with another company in the 70s, and long story short, that merged company was in trouble. And so, as some companies do in their trouble, they sell off some marketable assets. And, we had been growing our rum business really well, and we took the opportunity to buy that brand. But that was hugely influential for me, because what it meant was that rum we'd made this massive investment. I would say, actually, yes, easily the most expensive acquisition ever in our history. So, of course, that changed the whole outlook in terms of what rum would be for the business, and particularly because Martin Dorley had a modest history of exporting, it made us for the first time think about exporting rum.
Okay.
So
Really
growing up, I'm always going to join the business, but as I joined the business, we had this massive sort of shock, which I'm not involved in. My father does all the negotiations and everything.
Yeah. But it was an exciting time to join, by the sounds of it. So I guess that it's reasons like that helped develop the following for Foursquare. But what do you think it is that really has helped develop the reputation for the company as a whole over all these years?
I think it's a couple of things. I do trace a lot of, we started, well, Martin Dorley did have a long history going back, exporting back to about the 30s. By the time we acquired it, there was very little happening. And we started exporting for the first time about 99, 98, 99, something like that. First time into the UK with Dorleys. And we were. I mean, it's funny to look back on those days, and I don't think people grasp how difficult those days were to sell rum. But I think a lot of things changed from about 2007 when we had the first Rum Fest. And I think, you know, that really changed the ability to get in front of the right audience. Because the biggest part of the problem is that, you know, when you come from a little island like us, and you come to what is a huge market, many, many times our size, and you know, just in the UK alone, far less Europe, you have to go to the right audience. And if you go to the wrong audience, you just dust on the shelf.
Yeah.
And doing something like the Rum Fest, and then I would say also the combination following that, again, about reaching your right audiences, you know, using social media and stuff like that. So it allows kind of niche products to get in front of the right audience. I mean, you can speak today and say, oh yes, Foursquare is a very famous brand or whatever, but if you walk down the street and ask someone about Foursquare, they won't have a clue. We're very famous in a very, very, very small niche. But the point is today that's possible to achieve, which is very, very difficult a few years ago.
So at the moment you're working on multiple things. What's the is there anything you can tell us about, anything new that's recently come out from the
Well,
company?
there's always new. On its way is Foursquare Détente, which is the successor to Sagacity. So, you know, it's funny because the thing about having a brand, it's very easy to think that everyone knows all the details, but the knowledge of the brand is at different levels. So a lot of people don't necessarily even know much about the Foursquare brand. But the Foursquare brand, of course, is our series of releases. They're all individual. But then even within each release, there's a kind of a sub-series. So that's why I say Détente's successor, Sagacity. And what that series is those are the rums that are not cask strength. And the idea really is that we just know that the whole market out there is not cask strength. It's just, and you want to make sure there's always something in the range that's just that little bit more accessible. And so Détente is 10 years old, 51%, which was a lot of an internal debate went on that, because the idea really is that we don't want to be 40%, obviously. You know, 40%, no blender would desire 40%. You know, by the time you start getting below sort of 46 or 48, you're actually really starting to, it's not just you're diluting the spirit, but you're changing the spirit. You're actually harming the spirit. Yeah. So Sagacity was 48, kind of sort of where you want to be if you're not cask strength, but you don't want to go too low to kind of really change the nature of the rum. And I ended up doing this 51 a little higher, and I'll see if I've because it's just this torment between not wanting to touch it at all, but also trying to give something that's a little more accessible. So your natural inclination, I try to explain to people, is that given the choice, every distiller would release only cask strength, because we don't want to mess with it. We don't want to put water in it. We don't want to chill filter it. We don't want to have to put, you know, color in it and all these things. And if we never have to touch it, we don't have to do any of those things. So when I'm doing that range, is sort of this torment between, you know, we need to water it down because, you know, we have an audience out there. So, you know, cask strength is not for everyone, and that's fine. Everyone has different sensitivities. So, so that's Détente at 51, 10 years. It's a blend of rums aged in ex-bourbon, so 10 years ex-bourbon, or it's double matured, 4 years ex-bourbon, 6 years in old port casks. Okay. And these are second fill port casks, so it's not, you know, one of the things, again, as I say, with you do your best to do your brand communication, but you know, things always get mangled. And you know, the industry is a very kind of conservative industry, and sort of, so as you mention a port cask, people think finish. Well, no, it's a double maturation, and it's not a first fill port cask either. So the last fill in those casks was rum.
Right.
It's really about the quality of the cask itself.
Okay.
Around maturation and port, and of course the fact that there was port in it many years ago does influence how that wood behaves.
Mm.
So that's Détente, and then the other one that's coming, which is the successor in nobility, is Redoutable, and that's now that series, that green, well, purple for nobility series is our, is the full strength, the very special releases, something different, and so that's a 14-year ex-bourbon, ex-Madeira, and so what that is a blend of rums that are either 14 years in ex-bourbon or 14 years in ex-Madeira. So definitely not a finish, not even a double maturation. Two different rums aged in two different types of cask. And that's going to be cask strength. That's 61.
Is that, would you say that's one of the things you like most about your job, is working with the different casks and seeing how that changes the liquid, or are there other parts of your role that you like, or all of it as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, because sometimes people will say, yeah, oh, you use Madeira cask. It's, like if it's sort of some kind of innovation. And I have to say, no, it's really two ideas that are very, very old. One, Barbados has a long history of importing Madeira back in the day.
Yeah.
It was across the Atlantic, it was a useful stop in being Portuguese, but was friendly to the English. And so if you actually look at the history of the New World, look at all the American colonies, look at the islands, they all drunk copious amounts of Madeira. So it's a long history of importing Madeira cask. So kind of like what sherry is to Scotland, Madeira is in terms of cask. And it's really the other very, very old principle is just about trying to get very good cask.
Yeah.
So it's not about really kind of the novelty or that's why we don't do finishes, because it's not really about, as I say, trying to be innovative or doing some kind of novel marketing. It's about, I want to really find really, really good cask.
Yeah.
So for example, one of the casks we get is we buy some French oak cask from one of the best winemakers in the world in Chile. And why do we do this? Because to buy those French oak casks new in France is way beyond our budget. But when the Chilean guys use them, they have a very, specific protocol, and then they have some empty casks available, and there's not a lot of other, rum or whiskey producers to snap them up. And so I get my little source of casks, and they are used for wine. And they are used for Syrah. When we get them, we usually steam them. Not usually, we always steam them. So again, it's about sourcing the very best casks that we can get our hands on.
Yeah.
Last year, I also got some for the first time, some Sauterne casks. And I used to be very nervous about doing the Sauternes because it's not a fortified wine. It's a very sweet wine. So there's a real risk that by the time I get those casks, that the inside, it's foul. And but we did work out to a nice prep procedure at the chateau, and I was very happy that my Sauterne cask arrives perfect. But again, you're talking about an appellation that buys really, really good cask.
Yeah.
So it's about seeking the best wood you can find.
Excellent. And so you've told us about some of the new things that are coming on board. So is there anything that you can tell us that's coming up that you're working on for the future, or is that all top secret?
Well, we're always working. I mean, the thing about this game is that you have to not think of so much about the stuff you're doing now. You have to look in the inventory and look at the stuff you did 10 or 12 years ago. So for example, one of the things that we've been talking a lot about, and it sort of sends a few people crazy because, we talk about it because it's something we're doing recently, but it's not going to be out. And that is, I'm referring to the fact that we've been doing a lot in the last 4 years from cane juice. So again, I know we don't have a lot of time, so I try to stuff some history in briefly, but today, you know, people tend to think that rum is either made from molasses or juice, and this is really a very modern division. Historically, it was not the case. Historically, on the estates, the rum was made from both.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk about a cane juice rum from Barbados, people get very confused, but actually back in the day, they would use as sparingly as much molasses as possible, because the molasses was actually they used to sell the molasses to Canada and the States, and they got quite a good price for it. Barbados molasses is very famous. So they used to, you know, use as little molasses as they could, and they would use a lot of juices as well in their formulation. So there's a long history of using both. And so, you know, one of the things I did is there's a number of reasons behind it, but that 4 years ago we started working with sugarcane juice, and it was a nice, interesting development with our relationship with Nicholas Abbey. I don't know if you know about that, but Nicholas Abbey, when they first started, they took the aged rum from us. And then 4 years ago, I was able to take juice from Nicholas Abbey. So it's a lovely synergistic relationship. And then we started milling our own in 2018.
Okay.
And we still take Nicholas juice as well. So that's obviously something that's happening in the future, and you know, that we're putting down rum. So doing some different rums, and I, you know, I posted something on the internet the other day that sort of sent everyone crazy. I posted you know, an analysis showing a very high ester rum. And it was just fun because it was, you know, here was a high ester rum. It's not Jamaican, and it was made from pure cane juice, but it was not Cold. So
Great.
it's just a little bit provocative. But yeah, I mean, all of these things are about, you know, you have to push the envelope a little bit, and, you know, if you want to stay ahead of the game. I mean, you did ask kind of one of the reasons why, you know, Foursquare is popular, and I do think it is because we've tried to be a bit of a dynamic portfolio, which is what the audience responds to. And I kind of learned that again from the rum shows.
Yeah.
You go to the rum shows. That's why I say they were very influential. And of course, the audience wanted to be just like a little bit like you're there. Well, what's new? What's coming? So people do like to see, you know, they're enthusiasts. So they want to hear about new things and pushing the envelope and trying different things. And I think it's funny because we try to respond to that. But as I always try to explain to people, doing something different or novel is very trivial. That's not really what excites me. What excites me is to do something very interesting and complex, but is still true to Barbados, true to Foursquare. This for me is the real challenge.
Although,
you know,
I suppose for rum enthusiasts, having a high ester rum from Barbados, like you were saying, is interesting and new in itself. So you're kind of ticking both boxes there.
Yeah, but what will happen is that we will release that blended. So we will still release that in the Barbados style.
Okay.
We will not try to mimic. In other words, it's a high ester rum because, yes, the fermentation techniques, which did exist in Barbados. So I think one of the things to realize is, again, that, you know, with the diversity of rum, people don't realize that, for example, you know, over 100 years ago, Barbados did do long fermentations. Barbados did do high ester rums, but those died out. They survived in Jamaica because Jamaica was very famous for them, and you know, and did them very well. So they survived. They didn't survive in Barbados, but they were part of our history.
Okay, that sounds exciting. So, I just want to ask a little bit about the UK market. Are you able to sort of give your thoughts just generally on the market and how you see it at the moment? Is it rum is much talked about? We're seeing a lot of interest in premium spirits. Do you think there's a lot of potential in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, for us, the UK, you know, when we started exporting, you know, where did we go? UK. You go to the places where you have a natural, you know, familiar bond and a shared history, and where, you know, so people know rum, they knew Barbados rum. So, you know, the sort of root of all of our development of exports, you know, started in the UK, and to be even more specific than that, started in London. I mean, it was not that long ago that it was kind of a novelty to you know, to head out to, you know, Bristol or somewhere to sell our rums. I mean, I would say probably at least the first 10 years of us exporting to the UK, you know, so 95% of our trade was in London.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens when you sell something that's basically very, very niche.
Yeah.
You know, premium rum is niche, and then within the premium rum world, we're a very tiny part of that. So, yes, that's what happens. But the beauty is that, yeah, what we're seeing now is, you know, what was, you know, unique to London 10, 15 years ago is now, you know, it's all over the UK, and then, you know, it's over in Europe, and, you know, a good friend Ian Burrell, he just came back from Czech Republic, and, you know, he's like, they're rum crazy over there. I mean, this is marvelous. You know, last year I visited Singapore. I did a whiskey show there, and, you know, I did a seminar, and, you know, it was, you know, packed audience. I mean, this is fantastic. I mean, these are things that, you know, my grandfather would have never ever conceived of. So yes, it's gone remarkably well for rum in the last sort of 10, 15 years.
Yeah. So in the UK, there's...
Is that the root of that?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, through retail, there's a lot of interest in flavored and spiced rums, but I think a lot of in the industry believe that that's helping to lead people up the ladder into more grown-up or true rums, as people like to call them.
I don't think so, and it doesn't. It's not our strategy or our target. Yeah. So we see virtually spice and flavored rums is really something that has been created in the last you know, sort of 20 years or so, and there's no real history of it in the West Indies. I know some of the brands like to pretend there's some kind of history. No, in the greatest tradition in the West Indies, certainly Anglophone, well, what we call the West Indies, Anglophone Caribbean, we've been, you know, drinking straight white unaged rum. So there's this category, as I say, and it really is, for me, it's as foreign a category to me as gin is to me. So if some people do, if it does pique their interest, because I think we always have this debate about gateway. And so, you know, people will talk about, well, spice rum will be a gateway, or, you know, this very sugared up flavored rum will be, you know, will be a gateway. And the key to grasp there is not the sugar and the spice or the gateway. The gateway is the reach. Yeah. So the spice and the sugar rums, they have a lot of reach. They have a lot of distribution, have a lot of marketing money. So yes, they can provide a gateway, but I think people see the wrong stepping stone. It's not, oh, I drink sugared rum, I'm now going to grow up and drink, you know, straight rum. It's more, they drunk the sweet rum first because that's what was put in front of them. And yes, if they then become more interested about rum, fabulous. Yeah. But we generally do not go after a spiced rum drinker or a flavored rum drinker as a target audience. It's incidental. We go after the whiskey drinker.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. So
where we have an issue is when the flavored rum pretends to be premium rum. Sure. So he's doctored up the product. He's got the misleading age statement on it, you know, the random number. So he's coming over and duping the consumer that they're drinking a premium rum. Yeah. That's the issue where we have the brand that sells the spice rum to his happy audience, and it's, you know, £20 or whatever, and they're, you know, they're drinking it however they enjoy it. That, as I say, that's as foreign to me as a gin drinker. I
Would you,
if you come over, great. If you don't, I have no problem. I wouldn't have the volume anyway. I think that's the other thing. You know, we couldn't scratch the surface of the volume. We wouldn't have the capacity to you know, kind of go after those volumes.
would you, for an independent retailer in the UK that perhaps stocks a fair amount of premium products and knows their customers well and does tastings, would you recommend then perhaps that they could include rum like yours with a whiskey tasting to encourage those whiskey drinkers? And is there any advice you could give on merchandising that keeps that separate from the spiced rums? People are going to look for rum.
Well, that's one of the things that we've been working very hard on. That's what we talk about, a lot of these things about classification, because we hate this sort of white, gold, dark. And we do hate that rums are lumped together in a way that you would never see in Scotch whiskey.
Sure.
You would not see, you know, I don't know, a bottle of Ballantines next to a bottle of Glenfiddich. You actually see worse in rum. You see a bottle of Fireball next to a bottle of Glenfiddich. That's the kind of nonsense we see. So yes, that's very important. I mean, I always have this mantra, which people love. It's amusing. You sort of, you know, drink what you like, know what you're drinking. So, you know, if you like spice and flavored rum, that's fine. Drink what you like, but know what you're drinking. It's a spice or flavor, and then, you know, that's your category.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the merchandise is very important, because that's where a lot of the fall down happens. So, you know, you go in the store, you recommend a good rum, and, you know, the guy obviously or girl recommends, you know, the kind of something that's flying off the shelf and it's pretty cheap, and it might be, you know, some flavored product with a misleading age statement, and off it goes. And so the whole falsity gets reinforced, and you don't have that in the whiskey category. That's not happening. Nobody's picking up Fireball on the illusion that they're drinking a fine single malt.
Well, and also they're drinks that are enjoyed as a sipping spirit, more so whiskey and rum, whereas a spiced rum might be mixed. So almost consumed in a different way altogether, as well as
a different product, different audience. Yes, there'll be some crossover, but, you know, if 95% of them never crossed over, then that would be fine. I'm much more interested in that very large audience that buys, you know, premium whiskey. Because they're going to be happy when they come over. You know, it's a win. It's for me, it's much more interesting. You know, I'm not interested to fight with a guy who likes a sweet product. In fact, one of the things I have sometimes with the sweet products, with the guys who drink the sweet rum that's kind of masquerade rum, I sort of almost get a little frustrated in the sense that if you like sweet things, why don't you buy really, really good ones? So, for example, go and buy a beautiful port or a beautiful Madeira. Why buy this absolute junk product? There's nothing wrong with liking something sweet, but don't pay silly money for this, which is really a junk product, when there's, you know, you could pick up a beautiful Madeira and you're drinking something genuinely brilliant and sweet.
I think, I mean, the interest in gin, which you mentioned earlier, in this country has helped to encourage people to explore premium spirits, and also help break that barrier of people paying, you know, £40 plus for a bottle of spirits, which should in turn help whiskey and rum that are of a higher price. And retailers are tapping into that by stocking some interesting things. So hopefully they can have a look at at how they merchandise rum to fit in with your ideas there. And just to finish off, really, do you think there are any other trends that we might set to see in the UK? Is there anything happening in rum in different export markets that you've seen?
No, nothing more than what we've discussed. As I said, rum, it's a general improvement in terms of people's knowledge, understanding, featured in the bars, featured in the press. Kind of rum is kind of notorious for having some of the most nonsensical articles written, because of course they tend to repeat the same old canards every time, and we've seen a massive improvement in that, and that's really, really heartening. And we will get there. I mean, the thing is with rum is we don't have to contrive anything. The story of rum, the history, the provenance, the complexity, everything, we tick every box. An aged rum, blended with pot still or made exclusive with liquid pot still, is as a fine and artisanal spirit that you'll find in any category.
Yeah.
So we don't have to. That's why it's so frustrating when we will see the kind of the mass-produced product with the fake age statement and the 25 grams of sugar masquerading, because we don't have to masquerade.
Sure.
Some of the most fabulous spirits, I'm not talking rum, some of the most fabulous spirits in the world, the most skilled, the most complex, the most interesting, or in the rum category, in the rum world. And it's just about getting those stories out there.
Fantastic, Richard. Thank you. I'm going to have a look at some questions now, because we've got a few that have come in. So I'll start by asking a couple of these, and we'll see how we get on. So the first question here says, you teamed up with Hampden Estate to create the excellent Veritas blend a year or so ago. We've recently seen Equiano, which is the Foursquare and Grays blend, creating the first Caribbean and African rum blend. Are there plans afoot for any further collaborations?
Yes.
Long question, short answer.
Can't give all those details, but yes, we love doing collaborations. Obviously, the collaboration with Hampden is super special. There are only a handful of us privately owned, family-owned distilleries in the West Indies, and I should give you a hint as to future collaborations. But certainly that was one of the great motivations between working with the Hampden crew. We have the wonderful thing about the rum world is because we kind of go there into the it's a very large market, and because we know that rum is kind of underrepresented. We have a tremendous camaraderie between all the rum producers, and we really, and so doing the Hampden blend was with Veritas was really a great manifestation of that. So it's certainly one of my favorite projects. The one with Equiano is very much Ian Burrell's baby. He's sort of, because I don't really know, I mean, I know of by reputation the guys out in Mauritius, but I don't know them as well personally as I know everyone at Hampden personally. So it was really Ian sort of bringing us together. So again, that's a great project. And yes, there will be some future collaborations, yes.
Okay, great. Look forward to those. Another question is, if you were to advise someone new to Foursquare to try just one of your rums, which one would it be and why?
Well, the question with Foursquare would be challenging because obviously you have to go with what's currently available. So obviously right now in the market, you got 2008, you got well, Détente, and you got Ready Tap coming. So if it's Foursquare, my first question is, or you, you know, what's your background? So, you know, in other words, are you a whiskey drinker or are you a cask strength drinker? Where you
Something
come
for everyone.
Yeah, so that would shift whether I sent you to Détente or if I said, you know, wait for Ready Tap. Other than a Foursquare, I would start you off, if you're completely new to rum, I'd probably start you off with Doherty's XO.
Mm.
You know, yeah, if you weren't sort of coming from, you know, if you didn't come to me and say, I'm a whiskey guru, I only drink cask strength, whatever, and you were basically, you know, into the spirits and, you know, you wanted to have your bottle of rum at home and you wanted to be flexible, you wanted to maybe drink it neat some nights, maybe you wanted to make the daiquiri other nights, maybe you wanted to experiment, I would tell you Doherty's XO. You can't really go wrong there in terms of flexibility.
So thank you for that. I think we'll just, I'll ask one more of these questions and then we can perhaps see if we can answer any others separately. Sure. So there's a question here which says the Habitation Vela 2013 and 15 100% pot distilled releases were clearly excellent products. Can we assume that there is still more to come from those ex-cognac casks that were not used at that time as possible 100% pot distilled releases in the future?
Yes, both of those, that rum is still in the casks. 2013, I can't remember exactly, but there's more casks than what we released. I think it's 40 something casks and still left, something like that, or 60, could be 60 casks still left. Obviously, the 2015, that release of Fiona was just one cast, so there's many of those left. Would they be released again as those same rums? That's very unlikely. And will they be released soon? That's also very unlikely. They were very special products of Luca. It was, you know, the Habitation Vela range. We were just discussing the other day how I don't think there's ever been a range of rums that has been created both for the mission of not just enjoying them, but also education. So the idea really was behind that whole range which we participated in with the Habitation Vela range. You know, if you bought that range, you would learn a lot about rum.
Is that something that you could explore with a different range? Is it something that you?
Yes, exactly. It's something that. So that's why I can confidently say that we will not release 2013 or 2015 either in that same form or in any time hurry. They're going to be now allowed to age and get really, really old. I did taste the 2013 recently, 7 years old.
Yeah.
Completely different to when it was released. It was released in early 2016.
Right.
Those gas, and it's a new baby now completely. But it's going to age for a lot longer. I don't see myself releasing that for quite a long time because it's the nature of the rum and the nature of the cask. It's really going to blossom with age. So, which again, I've seen already. I mean, it's at 7 years old. It's just transformed completely from where it was back in 2016. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep it for a long time.
How long do you estimate with something like that?
I definitely wouldn't keep it. I'm certain I will not release it before sort of 12 years old, but it's the kind of rum I could envision releasing at sort of 16 to 18 years old. It's a type of rum that I think has got a lot of blossoming still to do. And it's in the perfect cask for it. It's in some very, very, very old cask.
You might look at other educational type ranges that help people understand the different.
Yeah. Well, this is what Velier does. I mean, he did his recent sort of tropical and continental where he did the same marks. Yeah, I mean, that's what Luca does. Is he really does? You know, so he released sort of like for example some of the continental high acid rums and you know and sort of you know there's a little bit of controversy behind them because they weren't really developed for drinking. And so, you know, we try to do an education, say, look, guys, he's not really for drinking. And Luca would say, you know, people asked him, you know, oh, Luca, do you drink this? He said, no, it's not really for drinking, but I really wanted to show people. Mm. Of course, it doesn't mean that it's not for drinking, you can't use it. No, that's the whole point is, you know, if you're really ingenious, you'll buy one of those high ester rums and you'll, you know, sprinkle it in your daiquiri or something like that. If you use it skillfully, you'll find the magic of it. But you know, they were not meant to sit and drink. But you know, we've created the Uber geeks. So we have, you know, the geeks and the Uber geeks. So it's crazy out there. You know, some people's enthusiasms go way off the charts.
Thanks, Richard. We've got just one final question if you've got time, and that is, when can we expect the Calvados cask rums, and are there any type of barrel or cask that you'd love to use for a future project? So that's two questions in one. Yeah, so you see, this is the problem when you talk about things currently like cane juice and Calvados cask, and people ask them, and then, as I say, in this game, you must never talk about the current stuff. You must only talk about the ones that are now turning 10 and 11 and 12 years old. So, so a much better question would be, for example, with Détente, we've released, you know, some of those rums from port casks at 10 years old, but I've not released all. And, you know, I think they're going to be very, you know, make some really interesting rums in another couple of years or two. So that's what we really should be talking about. Calvados, no, we're not nearly ready to talk about the Calvados. Just have to forget about that for now. Correct. I think they are only like, I can't remember how old they are. We did, I think they're 8 years old now. They're not ready yet. They're way off. Okay. And then in terms of cask, well, I did, as I mentioned earlier, I did always wanted to do, there was two that were sort of in the back of my mind for many years, which was the Sauternes, which we did last year, and the other one was Marsala. I used to chat about Marsala with Jim Swan. I mean, you know what I mean by Jim Swan. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's how long ago. Mm. So just to step back there, famous whiskey guru of wood, Jim, he's the one that really gave me a lot of guidance in the beginning. I got my all the help for getting my Madeira cask and everything through Jim, and we had discussed at that time when the Marsala as a most obvious one after Madeira, but at the time, you know, budgets are limited, budgets are still limited, so we began to keep buying the Madeiras. And last year, I bought my first set of Marsala, and Worthy Park came out with a Marsala, and it was lovely. And of course, I told Zan export managers, very, very jealous. You beat me to it, because we didn't get it. So yes, Marsala was definitely one, and certainly I love the one that Worthy Park did, and I have high hopes for those guys. Excellent. That's fantastic. Thanks so much for your time, Richard. It's been really great to hear everything that you've talked about, and be able to sort of get a good insight into some of the things you've been doing and working on at the moment, and in the far future, which we'll try and forget about for now and wait until we can hear more. That's fantastic. So if anyone has any further questions, do just forward them on, and we can see if there's a chance of getting those answered separately. Sure. And yeah, any other questions, just send them through, and we'll keep in touch with Richard and find out whatever we can. Sure. Excellent. All right. Thank you all. Thanks for your time. Bye.